Biblical secrets revealed, the shocking truth about the end of the world. Few knew what truly happened that night. Under a sky blanketed with swirling stars, in an ancient land heavy with secrets, shadows danced as whispers traveled. The air was thick with tension. People gathered in hushed groups, faces etched with fear and anticipation. Prophecies long foretold had begun to stir, awakening something deep within the soul of the world. In those days, the figure of Daniel loomed large. A prophet known for his visions, he had witnessed things that shook him to his core. The lion's den was his famous story, but what most did not see was the night he gazed into the depths of celestial chaos, peering through the veil of time itself. He felt the weight of the impending tribulations, as if the earth trembled beneath him, preparing to unleash its fury. Would it be fire, or famine, or a darkness so thick, it swallowed the light? Jerusalem lay shrouded in her own mysteries. The temple stood as a beacon of hope, yet it was also a vessel of betrayal. Its stones cried out, but few were willing to listen. The priests, clad in their rituals, walked among the people, blind to the signs all around them. The shadows grew longer as the moon danced above, casting a ghostly light on the desperate faces below. Dilemmas arose, clashing with faith and fear. The visions Daniel received were laced with confusion. Angels spoke of beasts and wonders, yet the questions haunted him. What did they mean? The townspeople murmured, their voices a chorus of uncertainty. Some believed, while others scoffed, dismissing the ominous warnings. A secret lingered like smoke in the air, thickening with each passing hour, and then, on a night like no other, the skies erupted in brilliant light. A comet streaked through the heavens, leaving a fiery trail. Would it herald the end of final judgment? The people gasped, wide-eyed, hearts pounding. Daniel clutched his chest, a lump in his throat, as visions crowded his mind. Could his dreams of calamity come true? Or was there still a glimmer of hope, hidden within the chaos? As the dust settled, a question echoed through the minds of all who witnessed the spectacle: what awaited them beyond the veil of tomorrow? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As dawn broke in Jerusalem, the last remnants of the comet's glow faded into the horizon, leaving behind an unsettling stillness. The crowds, once alive with awe and fear, were now a collective whisper, their hearts heavy with dread. In homes closed tight against the world, fires flickered dimly, illuminating worried faces whose thoughts spiraled into dark corners. Daniel, too, felt the weight of uncertainty grip him. He wandered through the streets, where children had once laughed and played, but now they stood silent, their innocence stripped away as their parents draped heavy blankets of worry over them. He sought solace in solitude, retreating to the garden that had once been his refuge. But today, even the flowers seemed wilted, reluctant to bloom under the burden of the atmosphere. His mind drifted back to the visions he had seen the night prior. Were they merely figments of a troubled mind, or were they prophetic truths begging to be deciphered? Fire and darkness mingled in a swirling mass, conveying a sense of urgency. Understanding, he whispered to the rustling palm leaves, is what we need most now. The air bore a certain weight, pressing down on him, as if the heavens conspired to reveal something monumental. As he knelt to pray, the first rays of the sun kissed the horizon, casting a golden hue over the land. He pleaded for clarity, for revelation, some insight into the chaos brewing in the hearts of men. Then, as though summoned by his earnestness, an angel appeared, shimmering yet steady, a blend of light and grace. Daniel, the angel said, its voice a gentle rumble like far-off thunder. You seek answers in the tempest of confusion. Man's heart is a tumultuous sea, swayed by fear and desire, yet within it lies the essence of truth. What truth? Daniel asked, his voice a whisper, barely audible over the rustling leaves. What must we do to save ourselves from the impending judgment? Judgment is not the end but a beginning, the angel replied, its eyes reflecting a depth that seemed to peer into eternity. Your people stand at a crossroads, torn between blind faith and awakening. Beware, for false prophets shall rise, leading many astray with sweet tongues and bitter hearts. Yet remember, the path of righteousness remains illuminated by love. The words danced in Daniel's mind, echoing the thousands of years of wisdom interwoven in his lineage. Love, that simple yet profound command, so easily overshadowed by fear. And what of the false prophets? They lurked among the faithful, promising security in the coming storm. Could he truly discern who spoke from the heart of God and who merely sought their own gain? Raise your voice, Daniel, the angel continued, for the time of choosing draws near. The signs you witnessed are mere reflections of the epic struggle within the souls of men. Stand firm in the truth you have been given. Let it guide you as a beacon in the dark. As the figure faded, Daniel felt a renewed urgency within him. He understood now that the battle was not solely against the outside forces threatening to overwhelm, but against the very despair residing in the hearts of the people. He returned to the crowded streets, where faces once again turned toward him with expressions of question and fear. The temple loomed before them, a monument of their faith, yet bathed in shadows, both literally and figuratively. Could the promise of hope and love resonate through the fear gripping their souls? As he gathered his thoughts, ready to speak of courage and love, a sense of finality lingered, a question unspoken simmering in the simmering air. In a world threatened by chaos, how can one choose love as their compass when fear pushes them to the very edge of despair? As Daniel ascended the steps of the temple, his heart raced with the fervor of a prophet summoned to deliver an urgent message. Each footfall echoed in the hollowed chambers of his spirit, resonating with a determination that surged within him. The cool marble beneath his feet contrasted sharply with the heat of the emotions roiling around him. Could hope truly illuminate the dark corners of their despair? He stepped into the vast hall where the elders congregated, their faces lined with age and worry, whispers looping around them like a threadbare tapestry. An air of expectancy clung to the space, and Daniel felt their gazes pierce through him, awaiting the wisdom he bore, or perhaps seeking a fleeting moment of solace. Daniel, one of the elders called, his voice trembling slightly, what say you of the comet? Our people fear it as an omen of wrath. How do we confront this darkness that threatens our very souls? Daniel cleared his throat, feeling the weight of their anticipation. He understood the gravity they placed on the answers they sought. The comet is but a harbinger, a reflection of the turmoil within us. Its presence compels us to confront our innermost fears, yet it does not dictate our fate. As the angel spoke to me, we stand at a crossroads. We must choose love over fear. A murmur rippled through the assembly, skepticism mingling with intrigue. Love is a noble pursuit, yet what of our survival? Another elder interjected. The world grows perilous, and while we could embrace love, what of our need for security? In that moment, Daniel discerned a flicker of doubt and longing within each face. They were as much prisoners of their fears as the children playing silently in the streets. True security, my brothers and sisters, lies not in bricks and mortar but in the strength of our community, he implored, his voice gaining confidence. Embracing love will forge bonds that no storm can shatter. It will await us on the other side of this judgment, should we dare to let it guide us. As he spoke, he noticed the flickering oil lamps casting shadows that danced like specters around them. Heartbeats echoed, and a heavy silence settled over the assembly. Daniel sensed their hesitation, the struggle between instinct and conscience. That if we are to choose love in these times, how shall we recognize it? Asked Miriam, a young woman with deep-set eyes reflecting determination. With so many voices claiming to know the truth, how do we know that we follow the right path? Her question hung in the air, heavy with uncertainty. Daniel knew that the waywardness of truth was a perilous path. Many would lead the unsuspecting astray, cloaked in false certainty. The key to discernment is rooted in humility and kindness, he said earnestly. Seek those who feed the Spirit rather than those who satiate their own ambitions. Actions speak more than words, we must observe the fruits they bear. The elders leaned forward, their bodies taut, minds alive with possibility. More questions spilled forth, each layer deepening the mystery of their plight and revealing the complexity of their spiritual journey. What if a false prophet emerges from within our own midst? Echoed an anxious voice. How shall we defend our people against the seduction of empty promises? Daniel inhaled deeply, the weight of the question resonating within him. We must cultivate our awareness and attune our hearts to the echoes of love, he answered. The Spirit reveals when one strays from the essence of compassion. We must foster a collective resilience and guard the love within. It will steer us towards truth, yet, amidst the fervor sparking in the chamber, a nagging feeling clutched at his heart. The urgency of their decision weighed upon him more than the burdens they expressed. Would love be enough to shield them from the onslaught of fear? He recalled the visions swirling around him, the shadows that accompanied the light. As the assembly mulled over his words, Daniel could not shake the looming question within his own soul. In choosing love as a compass in chaos, could they safeguard themselves against the seductive whispers of despair and the prophetic deceptions that were yet to come? What signs would ultimately lead them to a path of hope, and would they have the courage to follow? As the elders deliberated among themselves, Daniel stood at the center of the hall, feeling the weight of generations pressing against his shoulders. Their voices rose and fell like the tides, the ebb of despair clashing against the flow of tentative hope. Yet, within him, a storm brewed, an unshakable sense that greater revelations awaited, veiled just beyond the threshold of their collective understanding. The flickering oil lamps cast an orange glow, and shadows loomed larger, whispering secrets that only the vigilant could discern. It was then that Daniel noticed an elderly scribe, Nathaniel, sitting in the corner, his parchment and quill untouched as he observed the gathering with keen eyes that seemed to trace the contours of hidden meanings. Daniel, Nathaniel called out, his voice steady yet frail. You speak of love and discernment, but tell us, what of our ancestors' proclamations? The scrolls foretell of trials and tribulations that must precede the dawn. Are we not to expect darkness as a prelude to the light? Daniel pondered Nathaniel's inquiry. He understood the weight borne from the sacred texts that had shaped their identity and guided their understanding of the divine. Yes, the scrolls offer wisdom, and they echo the truth of cycles in our lives, moments of despair that give way to renewal, he replied, striving to weave his thoughts into a coherent tapestry. But perhaps we fail to grasp the profound depth of these trials. Might the darkness we fear become the very means through which we awaken to love? The assembly grew silent, reflecting on his words. The air shifted as if heaven itself had drawn nearer, urging them to consider the possibilities nestled within their fears. Daniel felt the stirring of hope but grappled with his own apprehensions. Was it truly possible for despair to give birth to love, or was he merely weaving an optimistic thread into the fabric of a somber fate? If I may, Miriam interjected, is not the very act of confronting our fears a testament to our faith? Can we not use this foreboding star to illuminate the path to compassion? What if we transformed our dread into determination? At her words, the elders exchanged glances, a flicker of unison igniting among them. There was a hunger for understanding, a yearning to embrace the light within the shadowy disclosure of impending trials. Yet still, an unseen current of unease flowed through Daniel. A nagging question remained unvoiced among them, threading through their hopes and fears alike. Tell us, Daniel, whispered Nathaniel, his voice wavering slightly, could it be that amidst our shared understanding of trials, we overlook the most profound truth of all? What if the shadows we fear are not external at all, but reflections of the doubts within us? Perhaps these deep fears and desires weave together, forming a tapestry of confusion that clouds our discernment. The echoes of the elders' words resounded within the hall, reverberating in Daniel's spirit. If indeed their internal struggle held the key to unlocking true discernment in the face of external trials, how could they begin that journey? What might emerge from the depths of their shared fears, once they dared to confront them? I sense, Daniel ventured, his voice nearly a whisper, that we must not only seek the love that binds us but also unearth the shadows we harbor within our hearts, the doubts, the disappointments, the fears that cling tenaciously to our souls. Only through acknowledgement can we rewrite the scroll of our destiny. The elders seemed captivated by his words, yet uncertainty lingered like a specter in the room. Could they truly confront the hidden darkness within themselves? Daniel felt that this inner reckoning could very well be their greatest trial yet. Would they have the fortitude to face the truths that lurked within, to unravel the delicate fabric of their fears and weave it anew with threads of resilience and compassion? As the assembly considered his thoughts, Daniel's heart brimmed with questions that seemed as vast as the universe itself. In seeking love, not only must they confront the external trials, but their greatest battle might well be the inner turmoil. Would the threads of despair transform into a fabric of hope? As they stood on the precipice of revelation, he wondered would they have the courage to embrace the journey of self-discovery, and what truths about themselves might emerge from the shadows. As the murmurs settled into an uneasy silence, the flickering flames of the oil lamps began to dance more vigorously, casting erratic shadows that mimicked the turmoil stirring in their hearts. Daniel could feel the weight of his own apprehensions at the fore of his mind, yet there was also a deeper calling, a gentle whisper beckoning him to continue in his quest for understanding. Perhaps, he offered cautiously, we must turn our gaze inward, to illuminate what lies concealed. In the sacred annals, our forefathers imparted not only tales of triumph but also of profound struggles. They navigated their own dark waters and emerged renewed, each tribulation a chance to rekindle the spirit. If we recognize the shadows within our midst, we might just find the essence of the light we yearn for. Miriam nodded slowly, as though processing his words, while the surrounding elders shifted in their seats, their curiosity piqued. Daniel could sense the stirrings of a collective awakening, though a lingering doubt flickered in the corners of his thoughts. Were they prepared to confront the hidden truths within their hearts, truths that could potentially unravel the very fabric of their beliefs? Nathanael, ever the sage, raised his weary gaze and countered gently, but Daniel, if the darkness is within us, does this not make the journey infinitely more daunting? To face oneself is a perilous endeavor. How do we bridge that chasm? What if our fears consume us rather than liberate us? It is in the act of exploration, Daniel replied, emboldened by the simmering energy of the assembly, that we uncover the mysteries cloaked in our shadows. Just as the seed must break through the soil to reach for the sun, we too must push against the weight of our fears to discover the transformative power within. The scrolls tell of trials as divine tests, not merely to measure our faith but to refine our very nature. The assembly shifted, a palpable tension wrapping around them. Daniel watched as the elders exchanged knowing glances. Each carried the weight of unspoken burdens, their lives defined by choices influenced by fears long simmering beneath the surface. Each hesitation in their exchanges told a story. He could almost hear their shadows whispering silently. Amid this contemplative atmosphere, a voice arose from the back, a younger elder, diligent but often overlooked, named Elisha. What, then, happens if we find within ourselves not light, but darkness? Might we risk shattering the very images we hold dear of righteousness? Are some shadows better left undisturbed? A silence enveloped the hall, thick with the weight of this inquiry. Yes, what if confronting their shadows revealed unsettling truths, flaws and failures not easily accepted? Daniel mused thoughtfully. Yet could they truly grow without such revelations? Might that which they perceived as corruption lead them closer to the essence of compassion? Ah, but my friend, Daniel responded gently, what is darkness if not a moment courageously faced? The scripture speaks of restoration and redemption. Therein lies the divine promise. When we dare to embrace our shadows and weave them alongside our light, we may become whole. Inspired by Daniel's words, the elders began to share quietly among themselves, thoughts tumbling forth like stones cast into a river, creating ripples of agreement and dissent. At the heart of their discourse was the undeniable truth that they were on the verge of reckoning, a collective unearthing of fears and yearnings that had long woven their existence yet remained unacknowledged. In that sacred hall, the air grew electric with realization, yet still, Daniel felt an unquenchable sense of unease hovering just out of sight. What if the unfolding truths proved to be more than they anticipated? What if they could not handle what lay beyond their walls of illusion? Would their collective strength prove sufficient for the journey ahead? As questions continued to linger, he asked himself, what lay in the depths of their undiscovered selves that could truly reshape their understanding of love, fear, and faith? Would they emerge more unified, or would the weight of their shadows overshadow the flicker of hope? The paths ahead appeared shrouded in mist, and amidst the gathering storm of revelations, Daniel felt the anxiety of anticipation weighing heavily upon his heart. As the gathering swirled with contemplative discussion, the shadows of doubt began to entwine with the light of revelation. Daniel observed how each elder absorbed the weight of the moment, their expressions a mirror of concerns and hopes. It was a critical juncture within the community, and yet outside, the world continued its relentless turn. That a low rumble echoed from the distance. A storm was brewing, clouding the horizon with an impending darkness. Those present felt a shiver that went beyond the chill of the night air, as if nature itself was bearing witness to their internal struggle. It served as a reminder that, like their ancestors, they did not exist in a vacuum. The external forces were equally emblematic of their internal battles. Miriam, whose serenity often masked deep reflection, broke the brief silence, her voice adorned with a captivating resolve. We must consider the allegory of the storm. Is it not often through fierce winds that the strongest of trees are compelled to bend, to shed their leaves, to make way for new growth? There was a wisdom in her words that seemed to reverberate against the stone walls. Daniel nodded, captivated by the symbolism, thinking of the great flood that had swept the earth long ago, a weighty reminder of the waters that cleansed and rebirth. Yes, but storms do not merely purge life, they bring chaos, and chaos can lead to destruction if one is unprepared. What if the storms we invite are too great for our hearts to bear? He was reminded of the ancient scrolls that spoke of the balance of creation and chaos and the delicate dance they conducted together. At that moment, an air of urgency swept through the circle. A hush lingered, mingling with the distant sound of thunder, drawing the elders deeper into their reflections. Elisha, emboldened yet again, raised his voice. Can we not find beauty in the ashes as well? In our stories, there lies evidence that through trials, God's hand is ever present. His light guides us even when our paths are obscured. What if the concealments are barriers only to lead us toward the greatest truths? Tension wove itself tightly around them as forces both seen and unseen tugged at their hearts and minds. In the complexity of their discussions, Daniel contemplated the parallel between their journey and that of their ancestors, who had crossed deserts seeking the promised land, battling the desolation of their own doubts, fears, and failures along the way. Yet, with that thought, a disquieting truth pressed upon him. What if the trials they must face would challenge the very foundations of their understanding? What if the shadows were stronger than they forecasted? The flickering lamps dimmed slightly, as if responding to his fears. Nathanael interjected slowly, but must we not also confront the shadows that may dwell in our very understanding of the divine? For, in every revelation, does there not lie the potential for distortion? We risk not only failing ourselves but misrepresenting the essence of God's intentions. A somber silence settled in response to his weighty words. Each hid fragments of doubt and belief in the shifting avenues of their thoughts. Daniel felt an ache in his soul, a recognition that their inquiry rippled beyond individual fears, it reached into the very heart of their spirituality. As the wind howled outside, the assembly steeled itself, acknowledging that the quest for self-discovery could potentially shake the roots of their established faith. Yet, within that very struggle lay an opportunity for glimpsing a more profound connection, not just with themselves, but with each other and their Creator. Somewhere in the blend of shadows and light, the answer hovered, unseen yet palpable. Daniel wondered, how much of their identity was interwoven with their fears, and should they proceed, what transformative understanding awaited them on the other side of their hesitations? Would they find greater unity in their confrontation, or would their divisions deepen like the cracks in the earth after a storm? The walls of certainty felt paper-thin, ready to dissolve into revelation or despair, leaving them to ponder the question of what might lie beyond the storm. The night grew heavier, as dark clouds cloaked the sky, and the sound of rain began to patter against the aged rooftops. The elders sat quietly, their hearts focused on more than just the tempest outside. They sensed a storm brewing within their midst, not only in the conversations but also in the very fabric of their faith. The air was thick with an anticipation for something yet to unfold, shrouded in divine mystery. Miriam shifted, being mindful of the weight of the discussions that hung over them. Perhaps we should examine our own hearts, she suggested gently, her words flowing like the rain outside. What if this storm truly reflects our own turmoil? In confronting the shadows of doubt and fear, can we finally see the light of truth shining through our hearts? The thought struck Daniel deeply. He considered how often the community had encapsulated their faith in rigid definitions, allowing only their preconceived notions of God to guide them. What if the very essence of truth lay beyond those confines, where the complexities of their individual fears beckoned them into greater understanding? He leaned forward, eager to express his thoughts. But in exploring our fears, might we also find misplaced hope? How do we strike the chord between faith and doubt without falling into the abyss of despair? Elisha's face lit up with understanding. True faith embraces doubt, much like a strong tree sways with the winds yet remains rooted in the ground. It is in that very tension we find the essence of God's purpose. Our ancestry speaks of trials that shaped nations. Ours could reflect that same divine purpose if we dare to confront what lies beyond our conventional understanding. That a low rumble echoed outside, sounding ominously close, as though nature echoed their debate. It was then that Nathanael's gaze drifted to the open scroll lying on the table, the sacred texts that chronicled their journey. The prophet spoke of times when both the wicked and the righteous would be forged in fire, he intoned, his voice somber yet resolute. And perhaps, too, there are secrets we have yet to uncover. What if these trials are only a means to reveal the hidden purpose of our existence? Miriam's expression shifted, now imbued with a sense of urgency. Then we must not shy away from the questions that haunt us, she replied firmly. Instead of seeking only comfort, we must wrestle with the discomfort. What if it is in our grappling with the divine that we discover our truest selves? Awash in contemplation, the elders pondered the imagery that stirred in their minds. Their forebears had walked through the fiery furnace and emerged not only unharmed but transformed. What lay on the other side of their wrestlings with doubt and fear? Outside, the rain surged, becoming a crescendo of clarity amidst confusion. Daniel felt the allure of the storm's chaos drawing them closer to some unnameable truth. If the world is to end as we know it, can we perceive it as the birth of something anew? He pondered, accessing the ancient narratives of growth out of destruction. The candle flames flickered precariously, interrupting the silence and casting dancing shadows upon the walls, reminding them of the transient nature of their own doubts and fears. It seemed nature itself conspired to illustrate their reflections. The elders found themselves staring into the depths of an unseen chasm filled with questions. They were faced with a revelation stretching beyond simple understanding. Was the end truly a curse, or could it also be the unveiling of something wondrous waiting to emerge? As the storm reached its zenith, Daniel allowed himself to grasp the enormity of what they might learn from this intersection of faith and uncertainty. Could it be, he mused, that we are destined to uncover deeper truths about our relationship with God and each other? And in this quest, might we discover that the end we fear is simply another beginning? As the first thunderclap resonated like a celestial affirmation, they remained suspended in a moment of quiet curiosity. What might they find? Hidden in the shadows of their beliefs, waiting to explode into the light. As the storm raged outside, its fierce winds tousled the leaves of the nearby trees, their branches bending like the very hearts of the elders enveloped in a tempest of thoughts. The room, illuminated by the soft glow of candles, felt cocooned from the world, yet it thrummed with the pulse of heavy questions waiting to be answered. Each elder seemed to bear the weight of prayers unfulfilled, seeking answers to their deepest doubts, swirling like the gusts outside. Elisha, contemplating the path that lay ahead, broke the silence with a gentle but determined voice. We have spoken of storms and of trials, yet we must not forget the promise of the covenant, he remarked. In our search for truth, let us not lose sight of the love and mercy that surround us, like the gentle rain nourishing the earth even amidst the tumult. Miriam nodded, feeling the resonance of Elisha's words in her soul. The covenant is indeed foundational, she added softly. But are we fully living in its light? We have often spoken of our ancestors' trials, yet we can also learn from their unwavering openness to God's presence. They did not shy away from their questioning, they invited it as part of their journey. A flicker of understanding passed between them, wrapping around every thought. Nathanael leaned closer to the scroll. If we look deeper into the texts, he suggested, his fingers tracing the sacred letters, we may find not only comfort but also a calling to confront the dark parts of ourselves. The great prophets lived in uncertainty. They engaged with God, wrestling until clarity broke through. If we are to be true followers, must we not also strive to engage earnestly with the shadows? Outside, the rains began to slow, transitioning from the wild storm into a gentle patter, as though nature itself was listening to their discourse. Daniel furrowed his brow, considering the journey yet to unfold. But what if we don't like what we find when we confront those shadows? What if we discover that our understanding of God, of our community, of ourselves was built on illusions? The thought hung heavily in the air, a reminder of the risks involved in the exploration of faith. Each elder felt the chill of uncertainty wash over them, igniting confusion and curiosity in equal measure. But is not the journey the very essence of our faith? Elisha interrupted, his voice steadier now. We cannot hope to find a promised land without first traversing the wilderness. The discomfort of the unknown is the crucible in which true knowledge is forged. And what of the revelation that awaits? Miriam interjected thoughtfully. If we choose to engage in this sacred struggle, what if we uncover a truth so profound that it transforms our understanding of the end we fear? What if the very act of wrestling with faith yields an understanding of who we are meant to be? A quiet reverence settled over them, each elder reflecting on the possibility that the end may indeed manifest as a beginning. Perhaps the very act of their grappling, both personal and communal, was unfolding a deeper mystery within God's plan. The wind howled one final time before settling into a tranquil whisper, mirroring the shift in their hearts. In their silence, they felt the divine invitation to venture forth, to seek what lay beneath their surface fears. Together, we must face what we do not fully comprehend, Nathanael declared, his voice imbued with a newfound resolve. In that mutual confrontation, may we recognize our common humanity, our struggles, and our aspirations. As they nodded in agreement, a humble ember of hope flickered to life within the depth of their uncertainty. They were bound not by the answers they sought but by the questions that lingered, a testament to their faith, flickering yet steadfast amidst the shadows. As the last echoes of thunder faded, an unsettling thought lingered. What would happen when they dared to unveil the hidden truths of their hearts? Would they find strength or weakness? Could their communal struggle become the very key to unlocking a greater understanding of God in their lives? The elders sat poised at the edge of discovery, and the answer remained just beyond their grasp, shrouded in the mystery of the divine. The candlelight flickered delicately, casting dancing shadows on the walls that seemed to echo the turbulence of thought and purpose within the elders. Each flicker held the power of doubt and belief intertwined, a representation of their inner reverie. Elisha broke the stillness that had settled upon their gathering. What if our understanding of the end, the culmination of all things, is intertwined with the very events we are frightened to confront? What if the end is not merely an end at all, but a transformation cloaked in mystery? Miriam leaned forward, her eyes reflecting the soft light, filled with both fear and fascination. In Scripture, we often speak of new beginnings arising from destruction. Just as the flood cleansed the earth yet birthed anew, could it be that our fears serve to shape our faith, molding us into something beautifully renewed? The notion rolled over them like the gentle waves of the sea. Nathanael, who had been silent for a moment, turned his gaze toward the window, where the remnants of the storm still dripped from the leaves outside. But is it not daunting to consider that to embrace transformation, we might have to walk through our greatest fears? How can we find solace in the thought that our struggles are not merely obstacles but instruments of change? Daniel folded his arms, his brow furrowing deeper, wrestling with the reality of such introspection. What if the trials we face reflect a greater narrative we are not yet privy to? The book of Job speaks of suffering beyond comprehension, yet through it, there was a voice that led him. Could our suffering lead us to a deeper encounter with the divine instead of pushing us away? Elisha's heart quickened at the prospect of grappling deeply with such existential themes. Indeed, the divine seems to draw near in our shadows, beckoning us to discover the truths we hide even from ourselves. Is it possible that what lies beyond the threshold of our fear is not only clarity but the very essence of God's unrelenting love? Miriam nodded, feeling the stirring of hope battling against trepidation. And perhaps the narratives we often see as linear conclusion followed by conclusion are simply beginnings in disguise, where each step taken deeper into the unknown births yet another story waiting to be written. Silence blanketed the elders, leaving their thoughts suspended in the air, heavy with potential yet buoyed by anticipation. The crackle of the candle flames provided a rhythmic heartbeat, synchronizing with their collective consciousness. It was Nathaniel who finally spoke, breaking through the meditative quiet, his voice emerging as if born from the very heart of their contemplation. What if we are meant to deconstruct everything we have built upon existing understandings? To question our perceptions of life, death, and what it means to follow the path laid down for us? Can we embrace the discomfort of this evolution without losing faith in the one who guides us? Alicia withheld a response, feeling the weight of their inquiry. Could faith indeed be about allowing oneself to exist amid uncertainty? As every elder contemplated this, a collective understanding blossomed within the room, a deep yearning to explore each facet of their faith, flawed as it was. In that moment, a realization swept over them: the journey toward understanding was as vital as the destination itself. They were not merely seekers of truth but participants in an unfolding mystery, where every question held the potential for revelation and every answer, a new beginning. Yet, beneath the harmony of thoughts danced a greater question, one that still eluded them all. Were they daring enough to embrace the unknown? Could they truly welcome the transformative power of hardship as a means to unravel the secrets of God's heart in the midst of their trials? The elders lingered on the threshold of this profound inquiry, their faith teetering on the edge of revelation, uncertain of what awaited just beyond the doorway. As the elders sat steeped in contemplation, a convergence of thoughts interwove questions of faith, fears of the future, and the uncertain journey that awaited them. Shadows flickered as the wind resumed its low murmur, sending their thoughts spiraling through a labyrinth of possibility. In their midst, Daniel rose once more, an ember of insight kindling within him. "Brothers and sisters," he began, his voice steady and warm, "we find ourselves gathered not merely to weigh the bated breath of prophecy but to embrace the transformative power of our shared journey. The covenant does not bind us to fear but invites us into a profound relationship with the divine, a relationship forged in love, trial, and revelation." His words resonated like the tolling of a deep bell, drawing the elders' attention towards him. Every trial we speak of, every shadow lurking in our hearts, exists as an invitation for deeper communion. We often see the end as a termination, an extinguishing of hope. Yet, perhaps the very fabric of our faith can teach us that the end is an elegant rebirth. What if our trials are the unanswered prayers that usher us into healing and unity? Miriam leaned forward, compelled by his earnestness. Then we must cultivate within ourselves the courage to confront our trials. Not to merely pass through them, but to welcome their lessons into our lives, letting each one mold us rather than break us. Alicia, emboldened by her declaration, added, "Can we, as a community, become brave enough to hold space for one another's shadows? To boldly venture into the unknown together, each step illuminated by love rather than fear? It is in our unity that we may find the resilience to face the torrents of doubt sweeping at our shores." One among them, Nathaniel, raised an eyebrow, his mind racing with implications. "But what if the confrontation of our fears creates fissures? What if the shadows we reconcile within ourselves unravel the very identity we think we possess?" Daniel stepped closer, his heart aligned with the fading light of the lamps. "Yes, it may unravel, but it can also weave anew. The lessons of our forebears indicate that in every disarray, God gathers fragments of grace to mold a masterpiece. Could it be that to shatter our illusions allows space for divine light to stream through? The treasure lies within the process." A collective silence absorbed the air, each elder contemplating the depth of their collective vulnerabilities and impending revelations. It was in that shared stillness that something profound stirred, a shared recognition of the sacred journey which waited just beyond their carefully constructed boundaries. The heavens above darkened, an ominous reminder of the swirling chaos that mirrored their innermost uncertainties. But within the gathering, a surge of strength began to rise, intertwining voices and minds. Miriam, her gaze steady, articulated, "Perhaps our strength does not rest upon our individual understanding but flourishes through our shared encounters of vulnerability. If we can embrace both our fears and our desires, we will unveil the pathways that lead to genuine transformation." Soon, all eyes turned toward Daniel, for within him flowed the flame of clarity. "In every storm, dear ones, lies the promise of renewal. And as we navigate through these raging waters, let us gather the fragments of our souls that emerge from the deep, each one a testament to the divine light that steadies us." As he spoke, the storm outside abated slightly, reflecting the harmony emerging within the hearts of the elders. Raindrops no longer battered the earth with fury, instead, they tapped gently, rhythmically, a soothing sensation that mimicked the beating hearts filled with newfound purpose. Nathaniel's wise voice interjected softly, then we must make a Paktan agreement to voyage through these shadows together. A commitment to honor each other's struggles, allowing both love and courage to shield us. For the true end is the awaking, the revealing of our interconnectedness forged in the crucible of shared experiences. With solemn nods of agreement, they circled around one another, laying hands atop another's shoulders. Their spirits intertwined, they breathed deeply as unity washed over them, transcending individual fears and assumptions. A vibrant energy pulsed through the gathering, resonating with their ancestors' ancient prayers, weaving a tapestry that honored their collective ascent towards enlightenment. The candle flames flickered with a renewed vigor, casting brilliant light upon their resolute faces. In that sacred moment, a soft voice echoed through the chambers, as if the winds caressed the very heart of their assembly. Fear not the shadows that lurk, for within them lies the gateway to love. It is through understanding the darkness that the light shines brightest. With this divine affirmation, clarity dawned upon the assembly. They recognized that their journey did not just revolve around surviving the trials that lay ahead, but intertwined their scriptures, their destinies, and their spirits with those they loved. The end they both feared and anticipated transformed before their eyes, no longer a singular conclusion but a vibrant rebirth, a shared journey embraced collectively with love as its guiding force. As dawn broke beyond the horizon, illuminating the room in golden hues, Daniel realized that it was not simply their fears they would overcome, but their understanding of what love truly meant. A unifying force that dares to brave suffering and delights in the unexpected grace of vulnerability. And so they emerged resolved beneath a dawn bursting with divine possibilities, ready not only to face the world but to embrace the continuation of their intertwined journey, knowing that every end would indeed lead to a glorious beginning as long as love illuminated their path. Thus, their story echoed beyond the walls of individual hearts, inviting all who would listen to partake in the dance between light and shadow, revelation and mystery, a testament to the power of faith rooted in love that resonates through the ages.